Hi there, Cade Resnick here from Cade Resnick Counseling, coming to chat with you once again. I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you for checking in. So today I wanted to chat with you about emotions. Not just emotions in general, but men's emotions. You see, there's a lot of conversations around that men are emotionless, or men are not having any emotions. And the problem is men hide their emotions, and they come out very differently. I would love to share with each and every one of you that men do have emotions. And this is so important to understand. You see, I hear from many women that they're sitting there in relationships or they're sitting there in friendships and they're trying to share with men, and men are giving them the answers, but they're emotionless answers. That's because men are trained very differently. Typically, when a young man, 11, 12, 13 years old, begins to move into manhood, if you will, what he does is he starts to separate from others and individualize himself to become a man. He looks around, he sees what's going on, and he's like, all right, I've got to emulate what I'm seeing. In order to be successful, men are trained from a very young age to get the job done. Make sure it's done, make sure it's finished, don't complain about it. What are you crying over? Well, that interpretation later on becomes, what are you emotional over? Then ladies, when it's time to start dating, many of you say, I want a man, I want a man's man, I want a strong man. How often can you remind yourself, say, you know what, I want that emotional man. So here you have 11, 12, 13, working their way into developmental age. They've started to date, and they're looking across the aisle, and they're going to be a man's man. So they're trained to be this way. So now as we're looking into people who get into their 30s, their 40s, their 50s, and older, and you're saying to them, now I want an emotional man, you're really asking for something to unprogram the person and allow them to get reprogrammed and accept what's inside. You see, for men, being emotional is very different than for women. Neither of them needs to break down. It's not crying all over the place. But for men, it really means crossing over that barrier of, I got this handled, to, how do we sort this out? And I think as we take a look at things, that's really the conversation. How do we share with each other and be better about it? You see, the conversation of men need to be more emotional is not really the correct conversation. Men need to be more comfortable opening up and sharing and putting out into the universe what they're feeling, what they're wanting to share, what they're wanting to say, what they're wanting others to hear, without worrying about the returned retribution of, oh, yeah, you're one of those, you're just one of those sissy guys, or you're just one of those, emotional guys. Because if somebody does take that step out and put their toe in the pond, if you will, and try it, and they get knocked down for trying it, they're not going to do it again. They're going to stop and say, it's not worth it. So before you ask, is he going to be emotional, you're asking him to deconstruct the way he's designed and rebuild a new version. Now, gents, as you're listening to this, men that are listening to this, strong boys that are listening to this, it is okay to start at a young age, and it is okay to share. And when people turn around to you and go, oh, don't be one of those guys, turn around and say to them, actually, I'm going to be one of those guys because I'm going to live a happier life. You see, when you're able to share, when you're able to be emotional, when you're able to put yourself out there, then your heart is at peace. Men tend to have a lot of struggles when they get older in life, and they're frustrated. That's because throughout the whole of life, all they've done is fix problems, so they've been stressed. They're not going to tell you they're stressed. They're not going to pick up on their stress. But they've always been doing. Now, I know in our society you think, well, we always see women doing. Their jobs are very active, they're physical. Then you see men working, and it's a little bit different. But ladies, you always had an outlet. You've always had an ability because it's acceptable for you to share out. Men, I'm reaching out to you. it's time for you to do the same thing. Share out. So between this week and next week, what I'm going to ask you all to do is to try to have that conversation. Just try it once. Turn around and say, you know what? Wife, friend, girlfriend, I want to share with you. Don't look at the reaction that they're going to have towards you. They might be weird about it. They might be like, whoa, what are you doing? But instead, share out and think inside how it felt to share out. It felt to put information on the table. Now I'm going to say something that a lot of people don't want to hear, don't want to accept, but a lot of times men walk on eggshells. They do so because they're afraid that if they put themselves out there and they say what they want to say, the return is going to be negative coming back at them. Or they're hyper aggressive, so everybody's afraid of them, and that way they don't get anything back returned. It's just like, oh, whoa, he said what he had to say, and the man's like, yeah, I accomplished that. But then the information's not received on the other side. So what I'm asking you to do is to actually share out. Try to have a conversation about what you're sharing out. Think about something that's bothering you, something that you just want to put on the table, and start. It's a tough place to go. But as I go through this series, I talk about communication, I talk about hearing, I talk about listening. It's the counselor in me, it's a psychologist in me. But I'm asking you to do the same things that I'm doing. Put your heart at rest. Put your mind at peace. And really start to focus on allowing yourself to feel differently. Be different. Put yourself out there. Let's see what happens. So here we are, Wisdom Wednesday. This is my part for you today. Men, put it out there. Ladies, learn to receive it from them. Next week, let's see what else we can come up. You're making mistakes. It's okay. You're allowed to do that. So, men, put it out there. Ladies, receive it. And next week, let's see what we can come up with. All right, everybody. I look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks for listening in this week. I'll chat with you all soon. Remember, Cade Resnick Counseling. Reach out to me. Let's see how I can help.